32 athletes.
8 teams.
The first and only
Professional Triathlon League.
This is Major League Triathlon.
Hello everyone, and welcome to Major League Triathlon Charlotte. This is the first edition of the 2017 season of Major League Triathlon. I'll be your host today. I'm the marketing manager and athlete liaison at Major League Triathlon. I competed in this league last year, and today I'm hoping to give you some insight into just how painful and fun this event can be. This format of triathlon is incredibly unique, and MLT, our organization, is the first and only professional triathlon league in the United States. The best female and male triathletes in the world compete against each other throughout our season in a unique swim, bike, run team event. Held in major cities across the U.S., we are competing in pop-up stadiums, allowing for a viewer experience unlike anything before seen in sport. Major League Triathlon is more than just a race. It's a show. We pair each race with a festival and expo, giving viewers of all ages a unique experience to have fun and view triathlon as an exciting live sporting event. Our expos at each race is one of the forms of fun we have at our races. They're typically at the finish line of our race, and here we have about 20 different local businesses and other health-related national and local companies. Today, here in Charlotte, we have Red Bull, Wells Fargo, Tesla Motors at the higher end, the more internationally based companies. Then we have in the middle, Strider Bikes, Kind Bar, Novant Health powered by Exos, and then all the way down to the small guys, we have a couple great food trucks in Kona Ice, and then we also have some incredibly great companies locally in the Charlotte area, such as Green Apple Sports and Wellness, which is a great sports performance center that focuses on chiropractic and physical therapy. Our festival is another component of our events. One of the ways that we try to make each event fun is by hosting an after party. Today we've partnered with C Brewing Company, and in Charlotte, if you've ever been here, and if you haven't, that's why I'm here sitting to talking to you today. We have an amazing scene of breweries. It's an incredibly popular activity in which people have fun in the local culture. So we have tied in our event with one of those breweries, C Brewing Company. It's one of the most popular breweries in the Charlotte area, and the festival will be taking place from 4 to 7 p.m. today. As I mentioned, this is the first event of the 2017 MLT season. After this race, we head to the beautiful beaches and boardwalk of Atlantic City, New Jersey on June 3rd for event number 2. Then for our third event, we head to the stunning Vail Valley in Colorado's Rocky Mountains on August 26th. Finally, our championship event for the 2017 season will be in Cleveland, Ohio on September 9th. We'll be headlining NeoCycle, which is the nation's largest urban cycling festival. Today, we're located in Uptown Charlotte, and Charlotte, being the largest city in North Carolina, for some reason or another, has determined that they call the center of their city Uptown. Most places it's downtown, but here, it's Uptown, baby. This is the third fastest growing city in America, and Charlotte is home to over 800,000 residents. Nicknamed the Queen City, it's home to the Charlotte Hornets of the National Basketball Association, the Carolina Panthers of the National Football League, the Charlotte Knights, which is a minor league AAA baseball team, and our very own Major League Triathlon Carolina Gliders. The Carolina Gliders' uniforms today are featuring Novant Health powered by Exos, which is a collaboration between Novant Health, an integrated system of physician practices, hospitals, outpatient centers, and more in the southeastern United States, and Exos, which is a company that designs and delivers health and performance game plans that guide people to achieve higher levels of success. They work with everybody from potential NFL draft selections to the everyday athlete. The pop-up stadium in the Queen City, which is a nickname for Charlotte, North Carolina today, sees the athletes swim at the Mecklenburg County Aquatic Center, a world-class natatorium and one of the fastest pools in the world. This aquatic center includes a 50-meter pool, a 25-yard therapeutic pool, which is a little bit warmer, a fitness center, and a hot tub. Today we pulled out all the lane lines of the 50-meter pool, put buoys in the water, and have created an M-shaped open water swim course, which you can now see where the athletes will be fighting around all of these buoys. As I mentioned, they'll be swimming in the shape of an M, and once finished with that, they'll be pulling themselves out of the course, sprinting out of this bay door into the parking lot around the Mecklenburg County Aquatic Center, taking a wide left-hand turn and entering transition. They'll be running past that finish line, which you can view right now on their way to transition. Once they get into transition, they'll unrack their bikes, drop their swim cap and goggles, put their helmets on, and head out onto the bike course. The bike course travels through the heart of uptown Charlotte, winding through skyscrapers that highlight this beautiful city's scape, such as the One Wells Fargo Center. Wells Fargo is the second largest bank by market capitalization, which is an indicator of the public opinion on a company's net worth. So it's a massive company. Wells Fargo believes in promoting health in the communities, which serves as a large reason why they have partnered with MLT for this event. We're thrilled to be with them, as Charlotte is the East Coast hub of their business operations. So this community is of extreme importance to them. The bike course is in the shape of a rectangle, with one of the longer straightaways mostly uphill and the other mostly downhill. For those technically savvy with cycling, the gradients are about 3 to 4%. So it's not incredibly steep, but it goes for about 500 meters or so. As I mentioned, the bike's in the shape of a rectangle. The athletes will be taking 4 90-degree right-hand turns, which makes this course somewhat technically challenging. One of those turns is on a downhill. So the athletes that will be able to hold their speed through the turns will be the ones that have the most success in completing this bike course in the fastest time. They'll be making 4 laps of this criterium-style bike course. Each lap is just under a mile, so it's about 6 kilometers or 3.75 miles. Once they finish this bike course, they'll be dismounting their bikes, heading back into the transition area where they'll exchange their bikes for running shoes before beginning the 2-loop run course. Each athlete will run uphill to the NASCAR Hall of Fame, then downhill back to the Aquatic Center, where they'll turn around and start the near half-mile loop yet again. Once back at the Aquatic Center, they'll run past our merchandise partner's tent, Branded Canvas Apparel Company, and then either hand off to their next teammate if they're one of the first 3 athletes at the entrance to the pool, or they'll sprint through the finish line if they're the final leg. It will certainly be a tough course for all, magnified by the fact that it's over 90 degrees Fahrenheit today. Today is actually the hottest day on record in 2017 in Charlotte. Most of these athletes are coming from Colorado or someplace in the Pacific Northwest where it's been cold. Most of the athletes here actually didn't know if they were going to be able to make it on their flights since it was blizzarding just 12 hours ago. As mentioned, our model is the mixed team relay, which is a super short, fast-paced, dynamic team event that pits teams composed of 2 men and 2 women against each other. The International Triathlon Union is putting every effort into place this event in the Tokyo 2020 Summer Olympic Games, and we are taking every action that we can to help them in that pursuit. Recent social media posts stemming from Olympic champion Gwen Jorgensen's Facebook Live video within the triathlon community has created a crowd-fueled call to action to include this event in the next Summer Olympic Games. Using the hashtag #TryMixedRelays, you can help aid in the efforts too. Major League Triathlon is focused on the intersection of fitness and fun, which is why we partner with several local and health-related companies at each of our events. While we are committed to making triathlon exciting, we want everyone in the community to enjoy an active lifestyle in whatever manner they enjoy the most. One of the companies that we are driven to help is Girls on the Run, a nonprofit whose mission is to inspire girls to be joyful, healthy, and confident using a fun, experience-based curriculum which creatively integrates running. All right, so now let's move on to some athletes to watch out for. This being the first race of the season, we haven't yet seen anyone race a super sprint mixed team relay in the MLT format. However, there have been several ITU, Ironman or other triathlon events that our athletes have been competing in so far this year. The first person I'll mention is a member of the Atlantic City Waves, and her name is Erin Densham. She's our only Australian in the field, and she's a 3-time Olympian. She's the 2012 Olympic bronze medalist and is one of the most heroine-esque people in this sport. She is one of the athletes that everyone here, but also every triathlete in the world looks up to. Another athlete to keep an eye on the men's side is Ben Canute. Ben is a USA Olympian from Rio in 2016 this past year. He is an original member of MLT, and he's coming off a stellar performance at the Ironman 70.3 North American Pro Championship. So Ben is on extreme form at the moment. He knows this discipline incredibly well, and on top of that, he is one of the main reasons why the USA won the World Championships in this format of triathlon in 2016. Another athlete to watch out for back on the women's side is Paula Finley of the Colorado Peaks. Switching between training in Boulder, Colorado and Edmonton, Canada, she's a former world number 1 who has a chip on her shoulder. She's ready to prove herself in Major League Triathlon, and she seems to be fit and ready to go. Jason West, another guy from the Atlantic City Waves, is on fire right now. He just won the Camtry Richmond Continental Cup with an incredibly outstanding performance. It's very solid swim, studly bike, and a stellar run. He just competed in St. Anthony's down in Florida, which is a non-drafting triathlon. It's Olympic distance, though they shortened the swim this year. He put on a very strong display to finish 3rd in that race. Now let's move on to the Wambla Carlisle Wildcards. As a full-service business law firm, Wambla Carlisle serves a wide range of regional, national, and international clients, including businesses, educational, regional, national, and international clients, including businesses and governmental bodies. Housed in Uptown, their attorney groups cover over 20 areas of law. They have picked up the following 3 athletes as their wild cards. The first one is Hannah Ross of the Atlantic City Waves. She is said at one time to have been one of the top 25 swimmers in the world, and she's also a former professional cyclist. It will be interesting to see where her run fitness is coming along. Speaking of run fitness, we have Walter Schaefer of the Atlantic City Waves and Robbie Webster of the Puerto Rico Islanders. They both ran in college and were standouts in that discipline. They've been working a lot on their swimming and biking, so it'll be incredibly interesting to see how they perform in this shorter distance today. Now I think we're getting close to getting ready to go off here. We've got 5 minutes or so, and I'm going to start introducing the first athletes from each team. So I'll start with our home team, which is the Carolina Gliders. The Carolina Gliders have elected to put Amber Zimmerman as their first leg. In this race today, the first leg of each team will be a female. The second leg will be a male. The third leg will be a female again. And then the fourth and final leg will be a male. This order of athletes will be changed and altered throughout the season, but today that's the order we're going with. The Carolina Gliders have gone with Amber Zimmerman to be their first athlete. Amber is an incredible runner. She ran for the University of New Mexico, is still doing graduate studies there, but has really picked up triathlon strongly just in the past year. She's only been a professional for a year or so, and it'll be incredibly exciting to watch her perform today. The next team we'll introduce is the Atlantic City Waves, who have elected to choose their bronze medalist from the 2012 London Olympics, Erin Densham, as their first leg. Erin, as I mentioned, is one of the best female athletes all time in this sport, and she'll be the most savvy and experienced competitor that's out on our course today. If she just has a solid race, she should be vying for one of the fastest overall circuits in this field. Up next, we have the Colorado Peaks. The Peaks have decided to put Paula Finley, the 2012 London Canadian Olympian, as their start-off member. Paula, as mentioned, came here from Boulder, Colorado just yesterday, and she's ready, fit, looking very lean, and ready to crush this M-shaped swim course, the criterium-style bike, and the 2-loop run. Next up, we have the Cleveland Rock and Roll. Something interesting about this team is 3 of their 4 members are actually from Cleveland. So the first member, Sarah Alexander, grew up in Cleveland. She is someone who's only been a professional triathlete for just over a year, but she has really come onto the scene strong. She's competing incredibly well, better than she ever has right now, and it'll be great to watch her compete today. Next up, we have the Indy Cats out of Indianapolis. They've chosen to start Alyssa Dela, who is actually from Indiana as well, from the Fort Wayne area. She is also a recent member of the triathlon community. She was a stud runner growing up, and she actually ran professionally, so look out for her to have the fastest run split today. Next up, we have the Sarasota Sun, who have elected to choose Caitlin Donner as their first athlete today. Caitlin is from Florida. She grew up in Satellite Beach, and she's been one of the best American female triathletes over the past 3 or 4 years. Penultimate team that we are announcing are the California Cadence, who've chosen Erin Dolan to be their representative on the first leg of this race. Erin Dolan swam at Drury University, where she won multiple NCAA Division II national championships in the pool, but she has translated that success very well to the triathlon sport. Next up, and lastly, we have the Puerto Rico Islanders, who have Chelsea Burns as their first athlete. Chelsea's absolutely on great form right now. She just competed in China a few weeks ago, and she had a great performance there at the World Cup. Looks like we're all ready to go. We'll wait for the starting horn. Right, we have the CEO ready to announce the horn. The athletes are ready to go at any minute. We got the crowd going wild here. 8 athletes, 300-meter swim, M-shaped course. 3, 2, 1. Here you go. As they dive in, the athletes are swimming about 45 meters due straight to the first buoy. As I mentioned, this is an M-shaped swimming course. The first buoy will be a 170-degree left-hand turn, so virtually they'll be turning around. It's close enough to the wall where if they are, in fact, incredible at flip turning, they can maybe take advantage of that. We've let them choose to do that if that's what they're desiring, but it looks like the person who's out front, Erin Dolan, looks to be on a tear, and she just went straight around. Doesn't look like anybody decided to do a flip turn. You'll see all of the first team members of the athletes that are competing today scroll across your screen right now. And in swimming, it's incredibly important in open water to either be in the front where you have an easy access to sight, or to be swimming on somebody's feet or hip. Much like in cycling, where you gain serious advantages by having less wind resistance if you're riding right behind somebody. In swimming, it's very similar. So as you can see, most of the athletes are trying to swim on the feet of their opponents. Right now, it looks like Erin Dolan's out front. It looks like Erin Densham may be in second. And then there's a small gap to third place. It's really strung out here as we have 3 sharp turns and then 1 90-degree turns on this swim course. These athletes are typically accustomed to swimming in a lake, river, or ocean where they're not able to see below the water while they're swimming, which is why sighting is such an important skill. However, our venue today, being the swim so short, we've elected to use this beautiful facility at the Mecklenburg County Aquatic Center. The athletes are mostly in a straight line now, but you can see the athletes, when they go around these buoys, they have to fight if they're next to each other. Each person wants the shortest line. So it actually, if you can get out quickly, you can save yourself wasting some energy by not fighting with those people that are coming around the buoys. So again, it looks like the California Cadence and Erin Dolan are in the lead. They have just about 15 meters left before they run out of the pool and then run out into the transition area through the parking lot. They'll bypass the finish line in Branded Canvas Apparel Company, which is our merchandise partner. All right, you see Erin Dolan come out of the pool. Got Erin Densham of the Sarasota Sun in second. Oh, excuse me, she's in third. She's of the Atlantic City Waves. Caitlin Donner was in second. Chelsea Burns of the Puerto Rico Islanders is in fourth. Sarah Alexander, Cleveland Rock and Roll, fifth. Paula Finley, 2012 Olympian, in sixth. Amber Zimmerman in seventh of the Carolina Gliders. Then we have Alyssa Dela of the Indy Cats, one of the best runners in this field. You can now see this tough run that they have out into transition. As I said, it's about 95 degrees with 85% humidity out there today. They're heading now into the first transition, which is where they're ditching their swim cap and goggles and putting on their helmets, grabbing their bikes, and running them out on a Martin Luther King Jr. Boulevard. They're going to take a sharp right-hand turn where they will pass by the mount line on the ground, and once they pass that, they can hop on their bikes and start drilling it. These girls are about to ride as hard as they can for 9 minutes or so. You can see one of the members of the Sarasota Sun, Mike Arishida, next to me right now. He's watching my feed, and he's soaked with his team's performance so far. So here we go. We've got Caitlin Donner and Erin Densham of, respectively, the Sarasota Sun and the Atlantic City Waves off the front right now. The field is relatively close together, but this is a draft legal race, folks, and what that means is once you are riding behind somebody, you're using significantly less energy than if you're on your own. So if you're not with people, it's incredibly difficult. You can see all of the athletes, only a couple of them have their feet in their bike shoes right now. Those shoes were clipped into the pedals when they ran their bikes out. They did a flying mount, so they were running about 10 miles an hour, jumped onto their bikes, and they're now pushing the pace. These three are trying to stay away from the next five that are about to come by the camera. We see Aaron Dolan, the California Cadence. We have Paula Finley and the other athletes run by. You can now see the view of just outside of uptown Charlotte. This is the Dilworth/South End area of the city. Famously, the Pink Building and the Dowd YMCA. And we're panning all the way around. Now we're back to the skyline. You can see the One Wells Fargo Center, which I mentioned earlier. That's the building, the skyscraper on the left-hand side of the screen that has that semicircle on top. So what you can see right now, this picture, is the downhill straightaway of the bike course. We have the cones set up, so the camera is closest to where the athletes will be running later. However, the lane on the outside of the cones, you're about to see the athletes start bombing down the hill. It looks like we still have 3 teams off the front, and what will likely happen is the next 5 teams will be working together. We see some of the male athletes that are going to be racing a little bit later on, warming up on the course. You can see with that shot just how hot it is. Okay, so it looks like the top 3 athletes are still Caitlin Donner of the Sarasota Sun, Chelsea Burns of the Puerto Rico Islanders, and Erin Densham of the Atlantic City Waves. We have a couple athletes working together, 1 in 6th off the back, and then we see 7th now. We don't see 8th just yet, but the field is slightly more strung out than I imagined it would be, if I'll be honest. That swim looked pretty physical, which is tough. We see Ben Canute saying hello. He's the 2016 Olympian. Mike Arishida and Ben Canute. Their jerseys look similar, though they are actually on different teams. They are competitors today. So the athletes are now on their second lap of the bike course. We can see the first 5 athletes now. Erin Densham is moving at the front. As you can see, these girls kind of oscillating in a circular pattern. That's called drafting and pace lining on a bike. So what they're trying to do, since it's more difficult riding at the front and exposing yourself to that greater wind resistance, is block the wind for the people behind them so that they don't have to work quite as hard. So they're taking incredibly short but difficult pulls, while Paula Finley, who's in 4th place of the Colorado Peaks, has to do 100% of the work trying to catch up to these 3 girls. So the front 3 girls are trying to work as hard as possible that they can still have a great run afterwards. This is a very tactical form of bike racing. If you've ever watched the Tour de France or any of the World Tour races for that matter, they are riding on road bikes similar to this, and they are drafting. When an athlete is off the back, it's much more difficult for them to get on, but you notice that there's always big groups of people riding together because they're blocking that wind resistance. Coming down now, we have got a shot again of Martin Luther King Jr. Boulevard, and we can see the athletes making that wide 90-degree right-hand turn to come back down the hill. It looks like we have 4 athletes now together, so it appears Paula Finley of the Colorado Peaks has now caught up. So it seems as though the Sarasota Sun, the Atlantic City Waves, the Colorado Peaks, and the Puerto Rico Islanders are the top 4 teams. They're all working together. It'll be incredibly interesting. We're now halfway through the bike course. They are riding right by now where the dismount line will be, and they'll be taking a right-hand turn once they get off of their bikes to go back into the parking lot. Aaron Dolan is still working incredibly hard in a tough 5th position to try and get back on this pack. It's astonishing that Paula Finley was able to catch up to these three girls because she had to come from a little ways back. So that shows you just how fit she is on the bike. Again, I mentioned that she was a 2012 Olympian in the London Olympics for Canada, and she has been ranked world number 1 in the past. She's on great form at the moment, hasn't raced a ton this year, but she's been chomping at the bit to get out on this race. With this incredibly unique shot down Stonewall Street, you can see the heat radiating from the street. You see John O'Neill off to the left cheering on Paula Finley, who's now taken to the front. So she did not waste any time in moving to the front of this group and to push the pace. What her goal is now, instead of taking a second to recover, she thinks she's fit enough to ride hard at the front and carry these three girls along with her. One of the advantages of this for the other three girls is that they don't have to work as hard since they're drafting off of her. One of the disadvantages for her is that, as I mentioned, she's working harder and she will have to start running with maybe in more oxygen debt. So we see, I think, the Cleveland Rock and Roller in 5th place right now. That's Sarah Alexander. And then it looks like Alyssa Dela of the Indy Cats is in 7th. This is Alyssa Dela. She's riding those deep section rims, trying to get every aerodynamic advantage as possible, about to go around that 90-degree right-hand corner, onto Stonewall Street. The top 4 athletes have made the end of the third lap. They're heading back down Martin Luther King Jr. Boulevard for the penultimate time. It looks like they're not working together very well. Paula Finley's still at the front. I'm not sure if she would like to be there. Ideally, everyone's taking short pulls and looping around to the back so that everyone's sharing the workload relatively equally. However, it doesn't work like that because some of the athletes are hurting. Some of the athletes know that they may not be quite as strong on a bike, and so it makes sense for them to ride behind the athletes and save their energy for the run. That being said, if the athletes don't work well together and Paula decides to stop trying so hard at the front, they could easily be caught by the athletes behind them that are working hard. So they're now on their final lap, I believe. They're coming back up Stonewall Street, which is one of the longer sides of the rectangle, that uphill side. You can see Paula Finley out of the saddle, wrenching the bike back and forth, trying to get as many watts as she can into her pedals to move forward as rapidly as possible. Sarah Alexander in 5th place of the Cleveland Rock and Roll seems to be holding her ground, though I will reiterate that she is working significantly harder than these girls that are in 2nd, 3rd, and 4th place. So as we get ready to finish this bike course, the athletes will be taking their feet out of their shoes, still pedaling, and then as they approach the dismount line, they will be jumping off their bikes at about 18 miles an hour and running with their bikes back into the parking lot in front of the aquatic center. This is not something that I would recommend doing at home. It's an incredibly difficult skill to acquire, but these athletes are professional and they do this for their job. These athletes have raced all over the world and practice this most weeks. So we should get a shot soon of the athletes heading back down Martin Luther King Jr. Street. We see Aaron Dolan of the California Cadence going by. You can see some of the athletes watching the feed that I've got in front of me here. They're in the midst of their warm-ups, which is usually some sort of a jog, maybe some strides. They already got their efforts in on the bike, did some recon, and then they're going to do the swim warm-up. Typically, you would do that last since it's what you do first in the race. So we've got pan back to the athletes on their bikes. You can see their feet are on top of their shoes. They're approaching the dismount line. You can see our CEO, Dan Cassidy, guiding them into where they will be getting off their bikes. See them dismount, boom, 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 and they're heading back into the 2nd transition area. Looks like Chelsea dropped one of her shoes, so she had to go back and pick it up. She's of the Puerto Rico Islanders. She will be set back about 5 seconds now because of that, but it looks like she won't get a penalty. The athletes are racking their bikes now, dropping their bike helmets, putting on their running shoes, lightweight running flats, and are starting this just less than a 1-mile run out of the parking lot and onto Martin Luther King Jr. Boulevard. It's a 2-lap circuit. 3 180-degree turns will be made, and they will be turning left on each of those turns. So The athletes should be out onto Martin Luther King Jr. Boulevard now. They'll be running uphill for about 400 meters before making a 180-degree left-hand turn, running back down the hill of Martin Luther King Jr. Boulevard, making another left-hand turn, which signifies the halfway point of the run. And you can see these athletes are in the first 400 meters. It looks like Caitlin Donner is in first. She has about 10 meters on Paula Finley of the Colorado Peaks in second. Erin Densham, the 2012, 2016, and 2008 Olympian, is on her heels. Those are your top three, the Sarasota Sun, Colorado Peaks, and Atlantic City Waves. Chelsea Burns is in fourth of the Puerto Rico Islanders. Sarah Alexander is in fifth of the Cleveland Rock and Roll. And it looks like Erin Dolan is running out of T2 now, second transition, in sixth place. She is on the California Cadence. So these athletes are running incredibly fast right now. If you go to your local track and run 4 laps around it, run a mile, if you can average 75 seconds or so a lap, which is a 5-minute mile, that's about the pace these athletes are running. We can see Amber Zimmerman now coming into transition, racking her bike. She wants to make sure it stays on that rail so she doesn't get any penalties. She immediately puts on those Hoka 1-1 running flats and is heading out onto the run course. She ran at the University of New Mexico, so it looks like she'll be able to make up some great time. I did say it's incredibly hot outside right now, and Erin Dolan is surging her way through that heat as we speak. Caitlin Donner of the Sarasota Sun has made that 180-degree turn for the first time. She's heading back down the hill now, where she will, once she gets to the bottom, will make another 180-degree turn and do the exact same circuit again that she just did. So it's 2 laps of about 800 meters or so that comprises the mile leg of this relay event. Now, this event is a relay. So the next member of each one of these teams is a male athlete. And once these girls get done to the end of the run, you may ask yourself, how do they make that switch? How do they make that third transition? The way in which they'll do that is running through one of the bay doors by the pool and literally smacking the hand of the next athlete in succession on their team. Right now, Caitlin Donner looks to be having a strong run. Their athletes are coming back downhill, the top 5 athletes. Erin Densham has passed Paula Finley to put the Atlantic City Waves into second place. Paula looks to be hanging tough, though she may be losing a little bit of ground to Erin. Erin is, as I said, by far the most experienced female competitor we have in the league this year, and she knows exactly how to gauge her effort levels. It looks like Chelsea Burns is now making up some of the time that she lost by dropping that shoe at the start of the second transition. But as mentioned, these athletes at this second 180-degree turn are heading back up the hill. This is really where they're starting to suffer on the run. It's incredibly painful. They're running 5 minutes as hard as they can, and right now they're doing it all uphill. To give a quick recap, we have Caitlin Donner of the Sarasota Sun in first place, Erin Densham of the Atlantic City Waves in second, Paula Finley close behind of the Colorado Peaks in third, and then Chelsea Burns of the Puerto Rico Islanders in fourth. Fifth place is Sarah Alexander of the Cleveland Rock and Roll, who made up some significant time on the bike but didn't have enough energy to catch up to that front group of 4. Erin Dolan of the California Cadence is in sixth, and she's about to finish the first half of that run segment. I believe Alyssa Dela and the Indy Cats are in seventh place, and then I think Amber Zimmerman is in eighth place. So this run, we only have about 2 minutes or so left of hard running for these ladies. They will be sticking on to Martin Luther King Jr., but at the end of the run, they'll bypass the penalty box. And at that penalty box, if their name is on the board, they have to stop and take that penalty. There's a lot of prize money up for grabs today, and if they don't stop at that penalty to take their 10-second penalty, or however many penalties they've racked up, which I don't know if any athletes have so far, then they are not eligible to receive as much prize money as their team could make. So we have some of that. I think most of the athletes now are done with the first half of the run circuit. It seems to be the Sarasota Sun still in the lead, the Atlantic City Waves in second, and the Colorado Peaks in third. If you're just now joining us, I want to reiterate that this is Major League Triathlon. We're the first and only professional triathlon league in the United States. This is our first event of the 2017 season. and it's in uptown Charlotte, North Carolina. Charlotte is the third fastest growing city in America. It's the biggest city in North Carolina. And here we've created a pop-up stadium that goes right through the heart of the center of the city. Major League Triathlon is more than just a race. It's a show. We have designed this event in which male and female athletes compete against each other. Swimming, biking, and running. Everyone does it. And towards the end, they either hand off to their next teammate, or if they're the final leg, they go through the finish line. We now have some of the athletes finishing the run course, so they're going to be heading back into the parking lot in front of the Mecklenburg County Aquatic Center, this stunning, stunning aquatic facility. They're going to be running around that roundabout that you saw. So we can see Caitlin Donner of the Sarasota Sun, who's in first place. She's got about 150 meters left of this run. She's giving it her all right now, just absolutely drilling it. She'll be making only right-hand turns before running up 3 steps and tagging her next teammate, who's Michael Arishida. Here we go. About 3 more seconds. We have the Sarasota Sun in the lead, and Mike Arishida, you can see now, diving into the pool. He's on his own right now, but he has some clear water to swim. Michael Arishida, he does not like to go by Mike, everyone, just so you know. He's Michael. He went to Texas A&M University, studied exercise physiology and pre-med. So he's a smart guy, but he is exclusively a professional triathlete now. He just graduated last year. We have 3 teams that are in close succession behind him, maybe 10 to 15 meters back, that are desperately trying to catch up. Among them, it looks like Walter Schaefer of the Atlantic City Waves is in second place. Walter was one of those Wambla-Carlisle wild cards we had. In third place, it looks to be Dan Feeney of the Puerto Rico Islanders. Dan Feeney, we like to call him Dr. Dan, as he is pursuing his PhD at the University of Colorado, Boulder. Dan's one of those athletes who wasn't sure if he'd be able to make it here, but he sure has made it, and he's passing Walter Schaefer of the Atlantic City Waves to put the Puerto Rico Islanders in second place. In fourth place, it looks like the Colorado Peaks are swimming here, and I believe John O'Neill is in second place. As you can see in the foreground, there are athletes. This is AJ Bacco of the Cleveland Rock and Roll beginning their swim. Dylan Nobbs of the California Cadence just entered, and it looks like we now have the top 6 teams in the water for the second leg of this relay event. Each athlete does complete a swim, a bike, and a run, and they start that off with this M-shaped swim course. So it looks like our top athlete here of the Sarasota Sun, Michael Arishida, is just about holding the gap he started with. So that's incredibly impressive. What will be interesting to see is if once these athletes get out on the bike, these 3 behind him, if they are still together, can catch back up and maybe go by him. Maybe he'll join them on the bike. That's what I would predict. Michael has about 30 meters left in this swim. We now have the Carolina Gliders home team, Graham Pimentel, who is a local athlete. He is the youngest male member of the league. You can see him going by the camera right now as Mike Arishida of the Sarasota Sun is coming out of the swim in first place for his team. He's pulling himself out of the water, virtually doing a pull-up, and now running out through that bay door, down those steps, and in around to the transition area. Dan Feeney of the Puerto Rico Islanders exits second. John O'Neill of the Colorado Peaks exits third. Walter Schaefer of the Atlantic City Waves, one of our Wambla-Carlisle wild cards, is exiting in fourth place. And it looks like all 8 of the teams have now either finished the second swim or started it. So the last 4 teams are relatively strung out, but the first 4 teams came out in relatively quick succession. So it'll be incredibly interesting to see how this bike leg plays out. It's important to note that the athletes need to have their helmets clipped, their helmet straps clipped, before they touch their bike and take it off the rack, like Walter Schaefer of the Atlantic City Waves just did. If they do not do that in that exact order, they will get a penalty. Michael Arishida of the Sarasota Sun is now on his bike. He has installed those miniature aero bars, and he is now working by himself. He's got his feet on top of his shoes, making that right-hand turn, and he's now heading up Stonewall Street to start the first uphill straightaway of that rectangular criterium-style bike course. The reason that he's put these aero bars on are exactly why they're called aero bars. They're the most aerodynamic way to ride a road bike. He's hoping to hold off these next 2 or 3 athletes that are behind him, though he may have to work a little bit harder to do so. If he can come off the bike with a 10 or 15 second advantage, if he is that confident in his run, then that could be a huge asset to their team. This race could turn into a fully spread out, time trialing single affair. It seems to be that Michael Arishida is holding his gap. He's just coming back up the second hill where he'll turn right onto South Caldwell Street in front of the NASCAR Hall of Fame. It is NASCAR All-Star Weekend, so there are a ton of people in the city for that event. Dylan Nobbs of the California Cadence is running his bike out onto MLK Junior Boulevard, and I believe his team, the California Cadence, are in 6th place. Graham Pimentel of the Carolina Gliders just got out of the pool in 7th place. And now we have Ben Canute of the Indy Cats finishing the swim. So all athletes will be out of the water and onto their bikes as of now. As we pan back to T2, we see Graham Pimentel, the youngest member of our league, hopping on his Trek Madone. And we now have the shot of the first 4 athletes coming down Martin Luther King Jr. Boulevard for the first time. They will do this 4 times. It is a 4-lap, 1,500-meter bike course, which is just under a mile. Michael Arishida is holding his ground relatively well, but it does appear to me that John O'Neill of the Colorado Peaks and Dan Feeney of the Puerto Rico Islanders will be able to catch him. It is difficult to stay away. And now this is interesting. We see Michael Arishida lapping Graham Pimentel of the Carolina Gliders. Graham is not allowed to draft off of the athletes that are lapping him. We'll see if he sticks to that rule or not. Michael Arishida now has been joined by John O'Neill of the Colorado Peaks and Dan Feeney of the Puerto Rico Islanders. Graham Pimentel looks to be sticking with them, so we'll see if the officials say anything to him, but I do not believe that is within the confines of the rules. Even if he does, he still will have an extra lap to complete once these athletes finish the course. You can see John O'Neill flicking his elbow there, which is a universal sign in cycling for allowing another athlete, calling them to come take a pull or coming to the front of the bike so that they don't have to work as hard. Ideally, all of these athletes are sharing the workload. And right now we have 3 teams in the front. The Sarasota Sun, who has Michael Arishida out there, the Colorado Peaks, who has John O'Neill, and the Puerto Rico Islanders, who have Dan Feeney. Dan Feeney most recently competed in the 2017 USA Triathlon Collegiate Club National Championships, where he won the sprint draft legal race for the University of Colorado Boulder. The men's collegiate club national championships for triathlon are not an NCAA event, so that means there's no age restriction. As we mentioned earlier in the broadcast, Dan is pursuing his PhD at the University of Colorado Boulder, but he competed for the Buffaloes down in Tuscaloosa, Alabama, and he won on the day. So hats off to him. We know he's in fine form right now. We can see these front 3 athletes together right now. Michael Arishida getting back down on those mini aero bars when he's at the front. But though when he approaches the corners, you can see him go back into those curved bits of his handlebars. Those are called the drops. That's where you have the most control on a bike. And if you're making any technical turns or need to make any quick maneuvers, that's where you want your hands to be. You see most of the people, I think all of them in that shot, have their hands down in those drops. As we're starting the 3rd lap now of this course for the 2nd leg of the first edition of MLT 2017, we've seen that the strongest teams so far are the Colorado Peaks, who Paula Finley led off, and now it's John O'Neill. The Puerto Rico Islanders, who started with Chelsea Burns, who you may remember of dropping her shoe in that second transition, and now Dan Feeney. And then we have Michael Arishida of the Sarasota Sun, whose teammate that kicked the race off and really got them off on a good note is Caitlin Donner. You see Ben Canute now coming out onto the course. He is 1 lap down, but he is drilling it right now, and he is trying to catch back up to that pack so he can work. Walter Schaefer of the Atlantic City Waves is in that fourth place spot. Though it looks like he's in sixth, he is actually in fourth because he is almost a lap ahead of those other two guys. Ben Canute has already gone by Walter, and that is an illustration of just how strong of a rider Ben is. So I believe this is Dylan Nobbs of the California Cadence. He is finishing his second lap, while we can see the leaders are finishing their third lap. Dylan Nobbs is in university at the University of Colorado Springs, and he is a pre-med major. He hopes to be a doctor someday. Spoke with him. He doesn't know what field exactly he wants to operate in, but he knows he wants to be working in a hospital helping people get better. So as these athletes now are finishing their third lap, you can see Ben Canute just blew right by those front three guys. He is the only male Olympian that's competing with us today. He's an original member of Major League Triathlon. He competed in 2016, and he's now attacking. It looks like John O'Neill is trying to go with him. John is racing for the Colorado Peaks today. He calls Avon, Eagle, Vail Valley, Colorado his home. And we will have our third race of the season actually in his hometown, which will be fun for him, I'm sure. Ben is talking to those guys, and he is trying to either get them to work together. Yeah, there you go. So he gave a little push. Now he's going to get on John, take a little breather, and then blast right by him again. Here he goes. Ben just came off an incredibly impressive performance at the 2017 Half Ironman North American Professional Championships in St. George, Utah, where he was fifth place in one of the deepest fields a Half Ironman has ever seen. He will be looking to compete for the United States of America in the 70.3 or Half Ironman World Championships this year, which are in Chattanooga, Tennessee in early September. Ben is on his second lap of the bike, though there are people working with him on their third lap. So they are coming to the conclusion of those laps. The athlete in the screen right now, Walter Schaefer of the Atlantic City Waves, also calls Colorado his home. He went to Cherry Creek High School, and his older brother, Bucky Schaefer, competed in the International Triathlon Union, or ITU, circuit about 10 years or so ago. Fun fact. We have Ben Canute of the Indy Cats off the front. Looks like Dylan Nobbs is trying to go with him, but Ben has gone by all of those athletes who are now finishing the bike course. Ben has another lap. You can see these guys have the feet out of their shoes because they're getting ready to do a flying dismount. As they do this, they'll be heading back into the transition area where they will be ditching their bikes and bike helmets for their running flats. There's Ben Canute. He's making up some significant time, but he's still about 90 seconds or so down on these guys that he was just riding with. You see Mike Arishida of the Sarasota Sun coming into T2, or second transition, first. You see Dan Feeney of the Puerto Rico Islanders coming in second. Gets off his helmet. Feet are already out of his bike shoes, getting his running flats on, and then he's going to head out. John O'Neill of the Colorado Peaks is heading out of the run in second place now. Dan Feeney's in third. Michael Arishida's already out. Michael Arishida has been focusing mostly on his swimming. He wants to get it to a level that is competent with the World Triathlon Series races, which are the highest level of racing in draft legal triathlon. Those are the races that help people qualify the most for the Olympics. We now see Walter Schaefer coming out of the second transition. He races for the Atlantic City Waves, and he is in fourth place. John O'Neill has had some great performances. This is actually the first race we've seen him do, though, this year. Last year he competed with Major League Triathlon, but was forced to miss the second two events of 4 of the inaugural season due to a tear in his knee. He had to have invasive surgery on that. Long, tough, arduous recovery period. And now he's racing again. We're happy to see him back out there. And we're really excited to see, I'm sure his team is as well, where his fitness is. You now see AJ Bacco of the Cleveland Rock and Roll coming out of the second transition. He is in 5th place. He is another member of the Cleveland Rock and Roll team who actually did grow up in Cleveland. Fun fact about AJ Bacco is that he was in a punk band for about 5 years before he started his professional triathlon career. We see Graham Pimentel and Dylan Nobbs coming through now. Ben Canute is running his bike in. He has moved his Indy Cats up from 8th place into 6th place. So that is a huge move up for their team. He was pretty far down when they started. He's putting on those Hoka 1-1 racing flats, just racked his Trek Madone, and now he's heading out onto the run. As I mentioned, Ben just had an incredibly impressive performance a couple weekends ago. We know he's fit. He typically performs well in the heat, but it is very hot today, so it'll be interesting to see how he goes. AJ Baco has chosen to take his suit off, which is unprecedented with the back zipper. That's actually incredibly difficult to do. Hats off to him. We'll see if that helps him out or not. It looks like the top 3 athletes are running together right now in a line. John O'Neill has come up on Michael Arishida's shoulder. Michael appears to be visibly struggling, but he is a tenacious, tough competitor. Just as I say that, John O'Neill moves into the front of the Colorado Peaks. Your top 3 at the moment: Colorado Peaks, Puerto Rico Islanders, and Michael Arishida. These guys are finishing their first lap of the run. Ben Canute, you can see, is starting his first lap of the run. So he's about 400 meters behind these guys, maybe 65 to 70 seconds or so. I'd like to take this moment to thank all of our volunteers that are out on the course. You can see them right now. They are guiding the athletes through this course. You can see a myriad of cones out on the streets. It's tough to nail down if you don't know the course, and most of these athletes just arrived yesterday. So the volunteers are doing a wonderful job, and we're incredibly appreciative of their support. Now we're into some tough moves here. Dan Feeney of the Puerto Rico Islanders and John O'Neill of the Colorado Peaks have pulled away from Michael Arishida, who appears to be struggling in the heat in Charlotte, North Carolina today. As they run up Martin Luther King Jr. Boulevard, they have about 600 meters left in this run, maybe 1 minute and 40 seconds or so. John O'Neill and Dan Feeney both ran in college. John O'Neill ran for Colorado State University in Fort Collins, and Dan Feeney ran at the University of Delaware. He was gifted with a unique opportunity that at first appeared to be a difficult life situation. He was running at the University of Delaware cross country and track and field when they cut the program, unfortunately. However, that opened up the door for him to start triathlon, and we may not have seen him out on the course today if he never had that opportunity. Walter Schaefer of the Atlantic City Waves is running up Martin Luther King Jr. on his second lap of the run in 4th place. And Ben Canute, who really looks like he's flying, he's making up a lot of time here, folks. He is finishing his first lap of the run and is really doing his best effort and incredibly impressive job of putting his team back into a great position. Ben Canute went to the University of Arizona, where he raced triathlon. He has been doing triathlon for a long time, and he is one of the best Americans in this sport. You can see him working up the hill. He's trying to keep his cadence as high as possible. He was an incredible swimmer. He's shown that he's an unbelievable cyclist, and he's really been working on his run a lot, which is showing and it will show in the split today. We still have at the front Dan Feeney and John O'Neill together. Looks like John of the Colorado Peaks, John O'Neill, has retaken that first position, but they're really running shoulder to shoulder. The Puerto Rico Islanders and the Colorado Peaks are going to be coming in to this end of the run, back to the bay door, around the roundabout, right-hand turn, up to the tag to their teammate in first and second position. We see Dylan Nobbs of the California Cadence and Graham Pimentel of the Carolina Gliders, our home team, running up that hill. It is much tougher of a gradient than it looks, and I will remind you, it is 95 degrees out there right now. You can hear the spectators cheering them on. They're coming around this roundabout. John O'Neill looks to be pushing the pace a little bit. He knows his next athlete is a good swimmer. Her name's Hannah Ross. She is an incredible swimmer. Dan Feeney of the Puerto Rico Islanders is in second, and John is trying to give Hannah as much space as he possibly can. Here we go. The tag has been made. Brittany Worley is the next competitor for the Colorado Peaks. The Puerto Rico Islanders and the Colorado Peaks are starting the first leg of the triathlon that the third leg is completing, the swim, together. And it looks like our Puerto Rico Islander is coming out in first. That is Lauren Thorne, who's a young Canadian. She was the North American junior champion in triathlon. So you know she is an incredible talent. I believe she's only 19 or 20 years old. She's currently studying at the University of Victoria. Not quite sure if she's decided exactly what she's going to study. Lauren is though she's young, she is an amazing athlete, as I've mentioned, with her stunning results so far in her early career. But she is an impressive swimmer, and it looks to be that Brittany Worley of the Colorado Petes is hanging on her feet right now. Brittany Worley has an incredible story about herself. She grew up playing tennis as a triplet. All three of them did. And then she actually accepted a scholarship to play to Division I tennis in college, which is unheard of in triathlon, at least to my knowledge. She took up the sport while she was in college. She decided she wasn't having much fun anymore, so she transferred to the University of Colorado Boulder, where she adapted quickly to triathlon. It is a mecca for the endurance sports community, and especially triathlon. And she ended up becoming the women's collegiate club national champion for the University of Colorado. We now have the first six teams, back in the pool, starting the third leg of this competition. It looks like Lauren Thorne of the Puerto Rico Islanders has put some distance on Brittany Worley. Brittany Worley was hanging onto her feet as long as she could, and as I mentioned before, she was saving a little bit of energy, just about 11 or 12% when she was swimming on Lauren Thorne's feet. But Lauren swam so fast that she actually pulled away from Brittany. So now Brittany is swimming in clear water, and she doesn't have that advantage anymore. That'll be interesting to see how that plays out if she can catch up on the bike. Lauren Thorne is about to finish this swim, and she will head out into the first transition to hop on her bike and start the 4-lap run course. Brittany Worley looks to be about 10 seconds or so down. Then we have, I believe, the Sarasota Sun in third place. We now have all teams either finished with the third leg swim or in the water swimming currently. All the athletes are within about, let's say, 2.5 minutes of each other. As you can see, Lauren Thorne run past Novant Health Major League Triathlon banner. She's running right in front of the Wells Fargo banner, and she is getting her helmet on. She'll be running her bike out. It's a beautiful Specialized Amira. And she'll be taking a sharp right-hand turn onto Martin Luther King Jr. Boulevard, where she, I believe, is going to try and stay away alone. We'll see what happens.
Out of the pool.
You can see Red Bull right there has graciously come on site. They're all about promoting extreme sports and all things exciting. They believe that we are one of those sports. We couldn't agree more. We can see Jillian Peterson of the Sarasota Sun getting on her bike, going through this first transition. Lauren Thorne is now out on the course. She's going to try to have a quick cadence to simulate what she will be, how she'll be running later on in this race. And we can't see second place just yet, so she's got a little good gap. Now, Hannah Ross of the Atlantic City Ways, the athlete you can see now in the first transition, is the athlete I mentioned at the start as one of the Wambla Carlisle wildcards. She is a phenomenal swimmer, was one of the top 25 swimmers in the world at one point in time. Graduated from the University of Wisconsin-Madison, where she swam there at the Olympic trials. And then she moved on to become a professional cyclist after dabbling a little bit in triathlon. She realized she was getting some running injuries, and she learned that she came to cycling incredibly quickly. So she actually got picked up by a women's professional cycling team, and she spent the past 2 years being a professional cyclist. There is nobody in this women's field who will be as strong and technically savvy on a bike as her. But she is in fourth place right now, so it'll be interesting to see just how much ground she can make up. Speaking of making up ground, Brittany Worley is trying to make up ground to get her team from second to first place. Lauren Thorne appears to be riding strongly, and we can see fully it's Amy Darlington. Amy actually competes for Arizona State University women's triathlon team. She is in 6th place. Looks like she had a solid swim. She has only been doing triathlon for this is her first year. She's been doing it for about 8 months now. She is onto the bike course, kept her team in 6th place. She was a runner at the University of Pennsylvania, but once triathlon became an NCAA sport, she graduated and decided to do her 5th year in Tempe at Arizona State University, where one of her coaches is actually Aaron Densham of the Atlantic City Waves. It looks like there's still a gap between first place, which is Lauren Thorne of the Puerto Rico Islanders, and Brittany Worley of the Colorado Peaks. We now see Amy Darlington coming up Stonewall. You can see she's trying to get up to speed, get her feet into her shoes, putting out as much power as she can. One of the Indy Cats, Megan Foley, unfortunately suffered a broken collarbone just days before. She was out on a training ride and crashed. So Amy has taken her place. She is living this summer in Bethlehem, Pennsylvania. Lauren Thorne now is in first place, and she is coming up. She's a lap ahead of Amy Darlington, who just rode by of the Indy Cats. So Lauren Thorne of the Puerto Rico Islanders is in first. Brittany Worley, who you can see in the background, is in second place. So first 2 teams right now, Puerto Rico Islanders and the Colorado Peaks. If you're just joining us, welcome. This is the first race of the 2017 Major League Triathlon season. We are located in Uptown Charlotte. It is the 3rd fastest growing city in America. You can see construction in the shot right now. MLT is the first and only professional triathlon league in the United States. Some of the best male and female professional triathletes in the world compete against each other in a unique swim, bike, run team event. Held in major cities and destination locations across the U.S., MLT pros compete in pop-up stadiums, allowing for a viewer experience unlike anything before seen in the sport. MLT is more than just a race, it's a show. And that show right now is featuring some of the best 8 women in our sport. The leader of our race is Lauren Thorne. She is Canadian. She's currently living in Victoria, British Columbia. And she seems to be holding off these next crew of girls. I believe Brittany Worley of the Colorado Peaks, who's in second, is a lap ahead of Erica Ackerland of the California Cadence and Erin Story of the Carolina Gliders, our home team. Erica Ackerland of the California Cadence, who is now moving into second on this bike leg, she just won the NCAA championship a few months ago in women's triathlon. She competed for the University of Montana, and she calls Missoula her home. Lauren Thorne is now out of the saddle. She's putting some power down. A lot of times these athletes may break a little bit before they enter the turn, or they'll just lose some turn as they're carving around, and so they'll power up out of the saddle to get back up to speed. Amy Darlington of the Indy Cats just passed by the front of our camera. Lauren Thorne is now in first, and it looks like these next 3 girls are working together. We have Erica Ackerland. Erica Ackerland and Erin Story are both a lap down. And this is actually very interesting because Brittany Worley has not done any of the work now to catch back up to Lauren Thorne. We'll wait to see what the race officials say about that, but it seems like everybody's been doing it today. Lauren Thorne now assimilates into that pace line, and she has no incentive really to do much work since her team is in first place. You can see John O'Neill of the Colorado Peaks and Dylan Nobbs of the California Cadence. They are cooling down a little bit, though it is 95 degrees out there. They want to cheer on their teams. Amy Darlington of the Indy Cats is coming down Martin Luther King Jr. Boulevard, and you'll see our leaders come around the turn. We'll remind you that the 2 girls at the front of this 4-woman group are 1 lap down. So Lauren Thorne of the Puerto Rico Islanders in that hot pink helmet, and Brittany Worley of the Colorado Peaks in that red helmet, they are the 2 who are in first and second place. Erin Story, who's now in the front in that bright orange helmet, and Erica Ackerland in that white helmet of the California Cadence are are 1 lap behind these 2 girls. Our leaders have 1 lap left on the bike course, and then they will be coming in to complete the run for their 3rd leg. Once they finish that run, this will be the last time the athletes, the 3rd leg is the last time the athletes come to make that handoff by the pool. On the last leg, the 4th team member will be running across the finish line. We've got some of the athletes here, some of our anchor athletes. We've got Robbie Webster and Alex Libben. They're desperately watching, hoping for their teams to make up some ground. Right now, they're in the top 2, so they look to be in a pretty good spot. Got this vibrant neon green helmet. I believe that's Jillian Peterson of the Sarasota Sun ripping it around this corner. It seems that Lindsay Jordanic of the Cleveland Rock and Roll is right behind her. She'll get on her wheel. They'll be working together. Lindsay is also from Cleveland. The athletes in this shot are going up Stonewall Street, which is the long straightaway that's uphill on this course. Charlotte is the home to over 200 neighborhoods, ranging in all demographics, age groups, income levels. It's an incredibly old city and is actually the location of the first gold rush in the United States. Until about the mid-1800s the early 1900s when California became the gold capital of the United States. Charlotte, North Carolina actually was. There are still some groups who go out and pan for gold in the rivers, and the University of North Carolina, Charlotte, located just a few miles outside of the uptown area of this city. Their mascot's actually the 49ers because of all the gold. So we see the athletes have grouped up a little bit. It looks like Brittany Worley of the Colorado Peaks is trying to go off the front, and Lauren Thorne of the Puerto Rico Islanders has decided it's better for her to stay back a little bit. So they're going to be finishing the bike course and coming into the 2nd transition. We still have some athletes out on the bike course, but our top 2 athletes are running into the 2nd transition, where they're going to rack their bikes on the opposite side from where they picked them up, take off their helmets, put it in the box, and then put their shoes on before they run out for this fierce, hot, humid, tough, hilly 1 mile run. Brittany Worley is our lead athlete. As mentioned, she graduated from the University of Colorado Boulder. She was the Women's Collegiate Club National Champion, I believe, just 1 year ago. She trains under Ken Axford on the Peak Multisport team. We now have the Cleveland Rock and Roll and the Sarasota Sun, Lindsay Jordanic and Jillian Peterson, respectively, putting their bikes onto their racks. Each team has its own rack, and they'll be taking their helmets off, putting their racing flats on, and heading out onto the course. You see Lindsay Jordanic fly by. She's been one of the best American women over the past few years, and she is on some great form right now. She just finished 2nd place at St. Anthony's, which is the non-draft Olympic distance event mentioned about earlier. We can see Hannah Ross, who is the incredibly powerful cyclist out on the course right now. She's about to finish. I believe her team is in 3rd place. Excuse me, actually I think they're now in 5th place. So she's coming in. She has her feet on top of her shoes, still putting out some power, and she will be hopping off of her bike soon as you watch Lindsay Jordanic about 300 meters into this first run, giving it all she's got. There's Jillian Peterson. Jillian Peterson actually aided an athlete in the 2016 Paralympic Games. They had a great result. She's still working with that same athlete. It's an incredible thing. We love supporting that, and she is helping athletes have unique experiences, and herself too. She competed in Rio on the same course that the Olympians did. It looks like Hannah Ross will have a penalty for having her helmet unclipped already. We'll see if the officials saw that, but she has now racked her bike, taking her helmet off and putting her shoes on. Dan Cassidy, the CEO of Major League Triathlon, started this company just a couple of years ago. This is our 2nd season. As you see, Aaron Story of the Carolina Gliders, Amy Darlington of the Indy Cats, and Lauren Thorne of the Puerto Rico Islanders coming in together. It looks like either Lauren Thorne did an extra lap or Brittany Worley did not do all 4 of her laps. So one of these athletes must have miscounted because Brittany Worley and Lauren Thorne came out of the water together and now they're separated by a few minutes. I will wait for confirmation on which athlete did not do the correct number of laps, but as far as right now, Brittany Worley of the Colorado Peaks looks to be in first place. She trains in Colorado Springs with Peak Multisport. One of her teammates, actually, Tyler Evans, is in our league as well. He will be anchoring their team. I believe she did do the correct number of laps. I think Lauren Thorne did an extra lap. And now you can see her running. She's running with Hannah Ross, but she was actually a lap ahead of her. So that's a tough blow. That's part of one of the reasons why these athletes need to be so laser focused throughout each of our events. Lindsay Durdonic seems to be running a great split right now. She's probably running just over 5 minutes a mile, which if you've ever tried to do that, is incredibly difficult. But that's just how fit these athletes are. They've already swam about 300 meters, ridden just under 4 miles, and they're still giving it all they got. Brittany Worley holding strong in first place, running up Martin Luther King Jr. Boulevard in the south part of uptown Charlotte. She's heading towards the NASCAR Hall of Fame, and you can see most of the field ahead of her up the street. You hate to see it happen to Lauren Thorne, to miscount the number of laps. We hope either way, somebody made an error, and that could be pivotal. It will be pivotal in the outcome of this team race. You can see Erica Ackerland and Aaron Story running back down the hill now. I believe they are in 4th and 5th place. I could be wrong. I don't have the live data in front of me. But Erica just won her first professional race just a few weeks ago in Richmond, Virginia, which was a ITU Continental Cup sprint distance. So 750-meter swim, 20-kilometer bike, or 12.5 miles, and a 5-kilometer run. She did that in impressive fashion by breaking away on the bike and then holding everyone off on the run. She's on great form right now. As I mentioned earlier, she calls Missoula, Montana home, and she is a student athlete at the University of Montana. Aaron Story ran for the Oregon State Beavers before transferring to the University of Colorado, Colorado Springs, to become part of USA Triathlon's elite development team, where she has trained since then. She still lives in the Springs. She just was married about 8 months ago, so congratulations to her and her husband. She is one of the best American female triathletes at the moment. She raced at the 2016 U.S. Olympic Trials in Yokohama, Japan. We can see now as these athletes are getting ready to finish their race, the third leg's getting ready to finish the race. Our final athletes are getting ready to start. Everyone's warmed up. Their muscles are primed. Brittany Worley has about 400 meters to go on this run course. The Colorado Peaks are holding strong in first place. As a triplet, it may be hard. You may feel pressure to succeed in relation to your siblings, but she's clearly doing that right now. She's heading back into the parking lot, and she will run past our expo area where there are several people hanging out. We've got music playing, about 20 or so businesses. We have a stagecoach from Wells Fargo, which is a great illustration of some of the history behind Wells Fargo. It's an incredibly old company. It's been around for over 200 years, I believe, and while its global headquarters are in San Francisco, its East Coast headquarters are in Charlotte, North Carolina. Charlotte's actually the second largest banking city behind New York. It's a fun fact there for you. Brittany Worley of the Colorado Peaks is finishing right now. She's going to be handing off to Alex Libben, who also trains in Colorado Springs. He was recently engaged, and he trains under Justin Trolley. Forgive my mispronunciation if I did that. Cleveland Rock and Roll dives into the water in second place. They have Kevin McDowell, who is the top-ranked American in the world right now. He missed out just barely on the 2016 Olympics, but he was right there. Kevin is from Chicago, and he grew up in just outside in a suburb called Geneva, where he was part of the multi-sport madness team. He has been doing triathlon for a long time and has been incredibly successful that entire way. Kevin won the silver medal at the Youth Olympic Games early in his career, and he recently finished 4th place at the 2015 U23 World Championships. Kevin is a major player on the global scene, and it'll be incredibly interesting to see what ground he can make up on Alex Libben of the Colorado Peaks. Looks like we have the Sarasota Suns last leg, who is Rudy Von Berg. Rudy has a unique story. He just graduated, I believe, from the University of Colorado Boulder and is an American citizen, but he's only been an American citizen for about 2 years. He's an incredible athlete, but he was an Italian citizen before. And though he was an Italian citizen, he grew up in just outside of Nice, France, in the south of France on the Côte d'Azur. Erica Ackerland is finishing her run. We have 1, 2, 3 teams in the pool right now, and we are waiting on 5 more to dive in. Our last leg of these athletes, all male, will be Robbie Webster of the Puerto Rico Islanders, Tyler Evans of the California Cadence, Rudy Von Berg of the Sarasota Sun, who I've mentioned, Robbie Deckard of the Indy Cats, Kevin McDowell of the Cleveland Rock and Roll, Alex Libben of the Colorado Peaks, Jason West of the Atlantic City Waves, and John Rasmussen of the Carolina Gliders. We're nearing the end of this swim leg, and it looks like Alex Libben has about a 10-15 meter lead on Kevin McDowell, who has made up some serious ground. As Alex pulls himself out of the pool, the Colorado Peaks will enter transition in first place. Kevin McDowell is pulling himself out of the pool as well, and he is taking off now. Kevin is doing everything he can to catch up to Alex Libben so that they can work together on the bike. They are both great runners, but Kevin may have shown more success throughout his career on the run. Alex has been on great form lately, and he just had a very impressive performance just 6 days ago, I believe, 6 or 7 days ago at the 70.3 Ironman Sarasota event, or excuse me, Santa Rosa event out in California. That was a quick first transition for Kevin McDowell, and he's now out onto the bike course. He'll be hopping on his bike momentarily. We've got Robbie Deckard of the Indy Cats swimming around this buoy. Robbie Webster of the Puerto Rico Islanders, one of those wild cards we mentioned earlier in the broadcast. Alex Libben wearing an Aero road helmet, looking like an alien, all for the aerodynamic gains, is now into his shoes and is heading up Stonewall on his bike. The winning team in this event makes $8,000, so that's $2,000 per athlete. There are individual preems. The overall fastest circuit, the winner gets $500. The fastest run, the fastest bike, and the fastest swim individually earns $250 per top male or female in that discipline. And then we also have a unique award, which is $125 for the fastest transitions. That is an incredibly important part of this short triathlon event, and it's something that is incredibly important for our athletes today. We've got a lot of the Queen's University male triathletes out here today. One of the few varsity triathlon teams in the United States. Graham Pimentel of the Carolina Gliders represents them throughout the year. We now have John Rasmussen of the Carolina Gliders hopping out of the pool in 5th place. He looked like he swam a couple meters longer than he needed to, but that'll probably cost him 1 or 2 seconds. Tyler Evans of the California Cadence has his team in 4th as he ditches his swim cap and goggles for his bike helmet and pulls his bike from the bike rack and is running it out onto Martin Luther King Jr. Boulevard. John Rasmussen can see him running out, and he's going to do everything he can to make his transition as fast as possible. John is one of our Canadian athletes, and he's had a great season so far this year, earning a few top 5 finishes at various ITU races around the U.S. and the Caribbean. He's an incredibly strong cyclist, and he several times in races has broken away from the field to have a good result. Robbie Webster of the Puerto Rico Islanders just exited the pool in 7th place. So you can see just how much the mistake of overcounting the laps cost the Puerto Rico Islanders, as they went from being in first place, tied for first place, to now they're in 7th place. So that is a big error, and you hate to see that, but that's how you learn sometimes. We've got Robbie Webster hustling his Cervelo S5, this aero road bike, out of the first transition. He's going to take a right-hand turn down that hill onto Martin Luther King Jr. Boulevard. There are athletes already out on the course, but we've situated the course so that the athletes will not be interfering with one another. That concludes all of the swimming portions of this event. We only have the bike and the run left. Robbie Webster of the Puerto Rico Islanders is on the camera now. He's actually in 7th place for his team, so he's trying to get his feet in to his bike shoes. Jason West of the Atlantic City Waves has just come out of the water. He's absolutely on fire right now. Though his team is down, they are in 8th place. It's a tough spot to be in. He is one of the best guys at this moment in terms of fitness, so hopefully he can bring back a couple of these teams. Robbie Webster started doing triathlon as a junior towards his late teens, but then ran at the University of Washington and left the sport for about 4 or 5 years. He has the fastest 5K personal best in this field of 13 minutes and 55 seconds, so that's incredibly quick. That's 67 seconds per 400 meters for that 5,000. We have Alex Libben, who I believe is starting his penultimate lap. He is racing for the Colorado Peaks. They are staying strong in first place. And Kevin McDowell should be in second, but something interesting about this is that they haven't regrouped. So they're staying pretty steady at the moment. This will make it more challenging for both athletes. Alex Libben's been training for some longer races that are non-drafting on the bike, so this may suit him more, as Kevin McDowell races almost exclusively non-drafting events. Kevin does look to be making up a little bit of ground, but it is tough to tell. Oh, excuse me, that wasn't even Kevin. That was Tyler Evans of the California Cadence, who I believe is a lap down. There we go. There's Kevin McDowell. That's second place. So they're about 15 seconds or so away from each other, which is relatively similar to where they came out of the water. They're both riding as hard as they can because they both want that top step on the podium today. Something unique about our podium today, you'll find Wells Fargo will be presenting the prize money to the top 3 teams. We're incredibly excited to be partnered with Wells Fargo for this event in Uptown Charlotte, and it's great that their headquarters are just a few steps away from our bike course. We've got Alex Libben drilling it with his head down. All of these guys are riding alone. The field is incredibly spread out at the moment along this 1-mile bike course, this rectangular criterium style technical course. They're going down the hill on Martin Luther King Jr. Boulevard at the moment. You can see this lush green trees that is something unique about Charlotte. Though it is hot and it doesn't receive that much rain throughout the year, there is a lot of greenery and spaces in which shade are offered. Some of these athletes, I'm sure, are wishing that they could be hanging out under the shade right now. Alex Libben has now made the turn onto Stonewall Street. He'll be heading uphill back up to South Caldwell Street, where the NASCAR Hall of Fame is, before making another right-hand turn, heading back down Martin Luther King Jr. Boulevard, where he'll be getting out of his shoes, dismounting his bike, and then starting the run. This is his final lap, and hopefully he gets the counting right. Jason West of the Atlantic City Waves is on your camera now. He is in 8th place, They were in first place at one point, I believe, but it just shows you how different this race can ebb and flow throughout the 4 different legs and 3 different disciplines within each leg. This hill that you can see them riding up is a bit of a challenge. It's a little punchy. John Rasmussen is doing his best. I believe he is in 7th place. Don't quote me on that. He's heading up to make that right-hand turn by the NASCAR Hall of Fame as well. So that is the halfway point in this 1 mile loop on the bike course, that right-hand 90-degree turn. Jason West of the Atlantic City Waves has his forearms positioned on the top of his handlebars, now the top of his hoods. He's trying to stay down, stay out of the wind as much as he can, and make up as much time as he can. Again, his team was fighting for the win at one point, and now they are in 8th place, so it's tough for them, but he's doing everything he can, and he's not worrying about that right now. He's just trying to have the best split that he can possibly have. These races are incredibly tough to predict, as you never know when an athlete is going to crash or there's going to be some kind of weather impediment, but this race has been totally blown open today, and I think one of the biggest takeaways will be the miscount of those laps, as it really changed the dynamic of the race. Okay, it looks like Kevin McDowell caught up mostly to Alex Libben. They're both in the second transition at the same time, and it's going to be a burner of a run for these two. They're both heading out on the course. Looks like Alex Libben has about 6 or 7 seconds on Kevin McDowell. We will get a great shot of both of them in just a few moments. Alex Libben grew up in Des Moines, Iowa, and he got into triathlon in college. You can see just how close these guys are, just 3 or 4 seconds. Alex Libben now trains in Colorado Springs. He trains alongside Aaron Story, and Kevin McDowell trains under John O'Hall, who also coaches Aaron Densham of the Atlantic City Waves and Lauren Thorne of the Puerto Rico Islanders. Kevin McDowell looks like he's catching up, and it'll be interesting to see if he goes by Alex or decides to sit on his shoulder and play a tactical game. Rudy Von Berg of the Sarasota Sun is running out now in 3rd place. We'll get a great shot of, he's probably about 30 seconds behind the top 2 athletes. We don't yet know where 4th place is, but it does look like Kevin McDowell has gone right past Alex Libben, and he's now in 1st place. So Kevin McDowell is approaching the end of the first 400 meters of this running race. That's all they have to do now. It's all that's left is just the run. It's amazing. We have so many athletes, so many different sports in these transitions, but yet it all has come down now to this run. It looks like there's a bit of a gap between Kevin McDowell and Alex Libben. Kevin's showing his fitness. He's raced a few times this season already at a very high level, and we are unbelievable run by Kevin right now. What a performance. Let's hope he can hold it together and see if Alex Libben is playing a game with him, if he can catch up at all. Rudy Von Berg of the Sarasota Sun is in 1st place, but right now as it stands, if they finish in this order, 1st place will go to the Cleveland Rock and Roll, 2nd place will go to the Colorado Peaks, and 3rd place will go to the Sarasota Sun. The Sarasota Sun were the 2016 MLT Cup champions. They won the overall title at the end of our league. This year there are 4 races across the United States. This one in Uptown Charlotte, Atlantic City, New Jersey on June 3rd, Vail Valley, Colorado on August 26th, and Cleveland, Ohio on September 9th, which comprises the 4 events of the 2017 MLT season. The Major League Triathlon 2017 season champions will be determined by a combination of consistency and the performances that these teams have throughout each event. AJ Baco is fired up, cheering on his teammate Kevin McDowell as John Rasmussen heads out onto the course. Kevin McDowell has just one more lap to go before he's done with this run, and he has put in some time into Alex Libben here. He's going to now have some carrots to chase in front of him as John Rasmussen and some other athletes are out on the course on their 1st lap while he's finishing his 2nd. Robbie Deckard is now coming into the transition area. He's racking his bike, putting his helmet down. He is a student athlete at the University of Colorado Boulder. Grew up in Zionsville, Indiana, where he went to Brebeuf Jesuit Preparatory High School, and he is the anchor leg for the Indy Cats today. Rudy Von Berg putting on a strong performance. He has had some great results at some half Ironman distance races this season. I'm not exactly sure if he's competed in an ITU race yet in 2017. I don't believe he has, but he has raced at the WTS and World Cup level. He's a stud. That being said, you can tell just how impressive a performance Kevin McDowell is putting on right now. We say Major League Triathlon isn't just a race, it's a show, and Kevin McDowell is the front and center stage of that show right now. He's heading up to his 180-degree turn. He's got just about 400 meters left of this run. He'll go into the finish line, and we'll be able to get a live interview with him and the rest of his teammates if they do, in fact, take the tape. He's coming up on Tyler Evans and John Rasmussen, who are respectively teammates of the California Cadence and the Carolina Gliders, our home team. The Gliders are presented by Novant Health, powered by Exos, which is a sports performance facility located just minutes away from Central Charlotte. Kevin McDowell, again, putting on a dominant display here. His team, Sarah Alexander, got them started off. She's from Cleveland. AJ Baco went in second. He's also from Cleveland. Lindsay Jordanic, no surprise here, also from Cleveland, was their third leg. And Kevin McDowell, not from Cleveland, but close by in Chicago, is their anchor leg, and he is proving just exactly why they have chosen for him to bring them home. He's got about 200 meters left. Alex Libben seems to have second place secured. He's competing for the Colorado Peaks. And their team members today were Paula Finley, who's the Olympian from Canada, John O'Neill, who's from Vail Valley, Colorado, Brittany Worley, who trains in Colorado Springs, Colorado, and Alex Libben, who also trains in Colorado Springs, Colorado. All four of these athletes have called home Colorado at one point in time. Kevin McDowell taking the tape for the Cleveland Rock and Roll. Ladies and gentlemen, what a performance. This truly was a team performance. All four athletes raced strongly, but they were not in first place until the very last leg, until the run of the very last leg. You can see Wells Fargo, Novant Health, powered by Exos, Wambley Carlisle, Champion System, and Branded Canvas Apparel Company, our merchandise partner, on that MLT banner that they are now hoisting. I know we will get some live interviews with them momentarily. Give them a second to catch their breath, cool off a little bit. You see Daniel Cassidy, the CEO of Major League Triathlon, just in the shot in the black shirt. We now have Aaron Dodge, who was the previous marketing manager of Major League Triathlon. He is a phenomenal marketer. He works with the Charlotte Hornets when they're in season, and a myriad of other marketing companies to help make advertising better all around the world. We can see now Rudy Von Berg is going to be running in. And we'll cut to Aaron Dodge now. He has a Cleveland Rock and Roll. As you can hear,
we're going to give some love to third place real quick. First, Sarasota Sun. We got Rudy Von Berg coming through. Great job, Rudy. All right, back to our winners for MLT Charlotte. Sarah Alexander, you started us off first. Tell us a little bit about setting the pace here. It's a hot day here in Charlotte, but tell me a little bit about it.
Yeah, so my goal was to kind of stay with the main pack as best I could, and the girls were really drilling it on the bike, so it was tough to hold on. So basically by the run, it was just like on to every second that I could, and we kind of back-ended our team knowing that we had like a strong team across the board. So yeah, I did the best I could to just set a decent tone for the team, and really grateful to my teammates for bringing it back strong. So
awesome. I love that. AJ, you were number 2. Tell me about your set.
Yeah, well,
Please don't touch my mic.
I knew I had some good teammates behind me with Lindsay going and then Kevin. So really all I wanted to do was just get every second out of it, go as hard as I could, try not to lose any time to the front guys. And I think I might have pulled back a little bit of time, not much, but I kept it in it, and then Lindsay caught us back. So yeah, it was great. I kept us in position, and then they closed it out, which is exactly what we wanted to do.
Awesome. We just had 2 more athletes coming in, finishing up as well. Then you pass it over to Lindsay Jordanic. Where's Lindsay at? Tell me about how it went for you.
Well, for me, I tried to keep it like a steady hard throughout the whole thing. So swimming strong, just knowing that I was going to be by myself for the most part. The bike was pretty fun. I tried to take the corners as aggressively as I could, and then basically after 1 lap, I was just on the limit the whole time from bike all the way through to the handoff to Kevin, who finished it off. So.
And let's bring Kevin on in here. Kevin, come in here. Give it up for Kevin, guys, rounding it out. You had to catch Alex Libben of the Colorado Peaks. Tell me a little bit about your set, and we got another finisher coming in, Robbie Deckard from the Indy Cats, getting him watered down. So tell me a little bit about what went down with you and Alex on the bike run.
Yeah, I knew I just had to keep it steady. They all set me up really well. Lindsay did her job to then keep the gap in and hold me to 10 seconds, and the whole goal was to keep it as close as I could to the run and then try and reel them in and really lay the hammer down on the run. So I felt smooth throughout the whole thing, and just happy that we all came away from the win with the team title, and it was teamwork, and it was really fun out there. And I'm excited for the rest of the series with this team and see what we can do and mix it up the order. It'll be fun as well.
Did 2016 MLT champion AJ Balco give you any sort of tips going into today?
Yeah, actually, last night we spent a while talking about it. He was telling me stuff and how it goes down, and he was pretty cool the whole way through, and he knows the ins and outs of this race, so he's telling me what to do and yelling at me the whole time, and the whole team was, so it was good to have him on the team. Fun. Makes it a lot more entertaining, too.
Awesome. Give it up one more time for the first place Cleveland Rock and Roll here at MLT Charlotte. Race order, Cleveland Rock and Roll, Colorado Peaks, and Sarasota Sun. Stay tuned as we will be giving medals out for first, second, and third place very shortly at our MLT background.
Okay, everyone. Thank you, Aaron Dodds, for those interviews. We can see Lindsay Jordanic on the left and Sarah Alexander on the right. And now me in front of the camera for you. That was quite an impressive performance, and we will put it back outside when they are ready for the podium ceremony. It will be just a couple of minutes away. A brief recap. The top 3 teams were, in fact, the Cleveland Rock and Roll. Second place was the Colorado Peaks. And then third, with a very strong performance, were the Sarasota Sun. Now, I want to remind you, we are in Uptown Charlotte. You can see the One Wells Fargo Center off to your left just now in the shot. You can see AJ Balco, Lindsay Jordanic, and Sarah Alexander, all 3 of the Cleveland Rock and Roll athletes that are, in fact, from Cleveland. They are hot right now, but they probably can't even feel the heat because they're thrilled that they just won. We'll wait and see what happens with the official splits, but we know, in fact, that their team won the top prize, which is $8,000 this year at each one of our races. There are 4 races that offer the same prize purse, and then there's a championship purse for the top 3 teams. Every athlete here goes home with money, but that money varies based on where their team finishes off. One of the biggest notable actions of today was the Puerto Rico Islanders and the miscount of the laps. That really did them in as they were looking to be in good position heading into that penultimate leg. You can see our expo here now, and it's relatively unique. We have Beeline, which is a natural energy. They use 5 organic ingredients. It's more of an energy gel. You can see there's Trillium Multisport off to the left in the foreground. They are a youth and junior triathlon team located in the U.S. And then we have Novant Health, powered by Exos. They are a sports performance facility just outside of Charlotte in Huntersville. What you can see off in the distance in the middle, just to the right of the finish gantry, the finish arch, the Wells Fargo Stagecoach. That is a dovetail into the history of the bank. And they have been around for a long time and grown significantly to become the world's second largest bank by market capitalization. The firm's primary U.S. operating subsidiary is in San Francisco, but today we are in Charlotte, and that just happens to be their East Coast hub. Additionally, we have with us on site Green Apple Sports and Wellness and Cycle Bar, which are two local health-related companies. Green Apple Sports and Wellness is a chiro, physical therapy. They really aid in helping every athlete become better and recover. Next, we can move on to Red Bull, which has brought their Wings team here. They've driven the Mini Cooper with the Red Bull sitting on the back. You can see on the left-hand side of your shot right now. They have a few people on the ground walking around with refrigerated backpacks where they are handing out the new summer edition of Red Bull, which has a few different cool flavors of grapefruit twist, and then they additionally are handing out the sugar-free versions and the normal Red Bull. Towards the far right, we have Kind Bar, which is a great company, predominantly in the U.S., but they have uniquely created snack bars that are gluten-free with ingredients that you can pronounce. They have a low glycemic index, no sugar alcohols, and no genetically engineered ingredients. So we love seeing companies passionate about helping the community be more healthy. We can now see the Sarasota Sun in third place, getting their medals. We will maybe take it back out onto Aaron Dodge, who is our MC, the PA announcer out there today. They were third place. You see Caitlin Donner, or Michael Arishida rather, holding up that 3, signifying third place. The Sarasota Suns made up of Caitlin Donner, Michael Arishida, Jillian Peterson, and Rudy Von Berg. They raced today in that order. Second place we have the Colorado Peaks. Paula Finley from Canada got the race kicked off for them, had a great performance. She handed it off to John O'Neill. John O'Neill then handed it off to Brittany Worley, who separated herself from the Puerto Rico Islanders on that lap count. And then Alex Libben took it home for them and completed most of his circuit in first place, but just got run down at the end by Kevin McDowell, who is a phenomenal athlete. First place team now, the Cleveland Rock and Roll. They take home the first race of the 2017 MLT season. We'll see if they can repeat it in 2 weeks' time. AJ Baco was their second leg. Sarah Alexander was their first. Kevin McDowell was their final leg, and Lindsey Jordanic was their third leg. 3 of the 4 of those athletes are from Cleveland. All 4 of the Colorado Peaks have called Colorado home at one time or another. And all members of the Sarasota Sun have either competed in or lived in Florida. There are your 12 athletes that comprise the 3 teams on the 3 podium steps of the first edition of Major League Triathlon in 2017. Get a couple pictures. Now Wells Fargo is presenting the check. So the Cleveland Rock and Roll has won $8,000 for being the first place team. Again, the prize purses will stay the same for each race this season. These athletes all race triathlon as their full-time jobs. So they train and then race. And this money will go straight back into their training. They've all got some great sponsors, but who couldn't use a little bit of money at one time or another, right? This is great. Each one of the teams will be presented with a big check, I believe, but we might not capture it. You can see the California Cadence grabbing a picture. See Tyler Evans on the left, Erica Ackerland, Aaron Dolan, and Dylan Knobs. Those black and orange singlets are reflecting the heat of the sun today out in Charlotte. It is 95 degrees out there. You can see, thankfully, the wind is blowing a little bit, and people are now mingling with the athletes. That'll just about do it for us, folks. We've had a great time. I've had a great time speaking to all of you today at the first edition of Major League Triathlon 2017 in Uptown Charlotte. We'll see you next time 2 weeks from now, 2 weeks from right now in Atlantic City, New Jersey, we'll be racing on the world-famous beach and boardwalk. Take care and stay golden.
"32 athletes,
8 teams,
The first and only.
Professional Triathlon League.
This
This
is Major League Triathlon.